It's the Hoffman Show on a Monday on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It is a misery Monday here on the Team 980 as the Commanders have lost yet again, this time at the buzzer to the Seattle Seahawks. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it. It is time for First and 10.
It's time to get the breakdown started. 1, 2, 3, First up, 10 observations.
Mr. Good guy and just boom, put him right on the ground.
It's First and 10.
So you would expect me to come out of the gates today just destroying a football team that continuously cannot do the basic simple things right in the biggest situations, and thus they are losing. And they will probably continue to lose because these problems, while fixable in theory, don't seem to be fixable based off the current coaching and playing personnel. You'd be wrong, though. I'm going to start with something positive because I think it's very appropriate.
Number one
is that Sam Howell is playing excellent football. And if we all agree, which most of us do, all reasonable, rational people do, that the most important thing for the rest of the season is figuring out if Sam Howell is definitively worth being your starting quarterback in 2024 and, in theory, beyond, then yesterday was an excellent day at the office. Was it actually an excellent day in a micro world? Absolutely not. And we're going to get there. Basically, the other 9 things are bad. Some of them are really bad. Some of them are the reasons why many of the people that we're going to talk about won't be here in that future that very much looks like it is going to involve Sam Howell. However, Sam Howell is playing excellent ball right now, and he is perhaps the biggest reason they are competitive right now. I know that sounds crazy, but maybe it doesn't. Like, he's their quarterback. It should be an outsized influence on the game. But, like, this is crazy that a guy in, like, his 10th career start is out there balling above what everyone else around him is doing in surely suboptimal situations based off play calling, based off offensive line performance, based on the fact that yesterday his star receivers couldn't get open. It seemed like if their life depended on it. And in fact, much of the year, their separation numbers have not been very good. They're good contested catch guys, at least 17 is. So you throw it to him anyway. But Sam is fixing the things that need to be fixed, which is the most important thing from a development standpoint. And he's continuing to do the stuff that's incredible, which includes making big plays in crunch time, whether that is legitimate, like there's 50 seconds left or whatever it was when he threw the touchdown to De'Ami Brown, or a third down here or whatever there. The moment is never too big for him. And that trait is the thing that has me so excited about him moving forward, because he just has it. Like, whatever it is, Sam Howell has it. And they haven't had a quarterback who's had it in a long time. Alex Smith had a version of it, but his it was kind of all he had. He didn't have a lot of else going on, and obviously his career here gets cut tragically short with what happened to him from an injury standpoint. Kirk Cousins had it, but was also had some other things that was like a 3/4 it, and that quarter was occasionally very important during his time here. I think he's grown out of some of those things in Minnesota, but that's another show for another time. Sam Howell seems to have all of it. It mentally, it physically, it a feel for things. Like, I am continuously very impressed with Sam. The only reason why I'm not like, this guy's going to be a top 10 quarterback for the next number of years is because that's impossible to say. Like, it sure looks like CJ Stroud's going to be one of those guys, but we've seen guys get hot before and be good for 10, 12 games. I mean, shoot, Geno Smith had an awesome year last year, and now he's back to being more or less the Geno Smith he was for a lot of his career, certainly after he left New York. So I think the excitement is 100% warranted. I think if you're looking at what Sam's putting on tape, there's nothing there's very few things that I see feasible happening the next couple of weeks that are going to change my mind unless he stops doing the things that he's doing right now. More specifically, the thing that I think is most encouraging about his growth and development, God, I just used the Ron Rivera phrase and I feel terrible about it, about his growth and or his development, there, I've made it my own, is that he has quelled the biggest concern. And it was a legitimate concern. He was getting sacked at an all-time rate, and it was his fault. Sack to pressure ratio is a quarterback stat. And you want to know how I know that? Because the pressures have actually not changed that much since earlier in the season, where this O-line is playing extraordinarily average at best. But he has dropped his sack to pressure percentage from 39% to this particular week was 13%. That is a very good number. So every time he's taken a pressure, it used to be over 1/3 of the time he was getting sacked. Now those are turning into scrambles, to big plays off schedule, such as the touchdown of Brian Robinson. He's finding subtle ways to move. He's getting the ball out faster. It's like, oh, I'm under pressure. Let's take a 3-step drop and get the ball out instead of taking this 5-step drop and getting smashed in the face. This is big-time stuff to make such rapid improvement on relatively quickly. And this is why, despite all of the rest of the 9 things that I am about to go through, starting with the defense next, yesterday, in the most macro sense, biggest of pictures, was a phenomenal day for the Washington Commanders. And now the poopy part.
Number 2.
This defense does not have good enough football players on it. And so, again, I'm going to do a micro-macro thing here. And I please, before you freak out at what I'm about to say, listen for the micro and the macro. Micro, yesterday, contained in one game. I actually thought Jack Del Rio called a pretty good game. I thought the game plan was solid, and I think he made a really important adjustment during. Seattle has been abysmal, abominable, terrible, literally one of the worst 5 in the league at sustaining drives all season. I think I heard on the broadcast yesterday, they had more 10-plus play drives in yesterday's game than they did the entire season combined before that. If not, it was very, very close. That is how bad Seattle has been, which, of course, is a bad reflection of the Washington defense, but as a plan, like, hey, let's make them drive the field, that was a good plan by Jack Del Rio. Unfortunately, his players could not execute. They couldn't finish plays. They couldn't generate turnovers. They couldn't get pressures. They couldn't do the things they needed to do to get off the field. So what did Jack do as we got into the second half? He started to pick up the pressure a little bit, and you saw it have an effect on Geno Smith, getting the ball out. Like, okay, our back end can't stand up and cover for 3 seconds, and our pass rush isn't getting home with what we need it to do. Okay, well, let's speed up this process a little bit. And it worked. Unfortunately for Jack, Percy Butler, I don't think, is a true starting caliber safety at this point in his career. He's an incredible athlete. I think he is getting better, but you're just going to have 1 to 2 plays a game that are catastrophic. And it's the nature of the position that you play as a safety. If you miss a tackle, and especially in the run game or on a quick check down, you're dead. You're the safety. You're the last line of defense. You can't miss tackles the way he misses tackles. Like, even if you miss a tackle but you slow a guy down, that's something. Percy's whiffed a couple of weeks in a row on these 64-yard touchdowns by running backs from Ramondre Stevenson and then Walker yesterday. He's not good enough to be a high-caliber NFL starter at this point in his career. Benjamin St-Juste is a solid NFL football player, but he is not a number 1 corner. And that's an important distinction, right? Like, I'm not going to be radio hot take guy like, Benjamin St-Juste stinks. I'll leave that for you guys in the YouTube comments and on Twitter replies and such, where he is getting absolutely destroyed today. But here's the thing. Is it Benjamin St-Juste's fault that he's Benjamin St-Juste? Or is it the organization's fault for continuing to ask Benjamin St-Juste to go one-on-one with DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown and the best receivers in the league, and he's not up to that task? Organizationally, they are setting him up to fail. He is failing. He could be better. But I think what you have to realize is, like, Benjamin St-Juste is very solid in terms of getting into a lot of good positions, but he doesn't always play with the technique that he's asked to, and he's not a good finisher. And that is just blatantly clear. He had no interceptions in college. He has the one that Desmond Ridder threw to him this year. He is not a finisher. And you can't be not a finisher and play number 1 receivers in this league. So it's not that he's a terrible, no good, unplayable, not actual NFL corner, as he's not any of those things as a number 1 corner. So you're outmanned. David Mayo, same concept. Is David Mayo an unplayable, terrible football player? No. And actually, yesterday, he had a lot of really good plays. Played well against the run, had some nice plays in the flat. Like, he's a very sure tackler most of the time. But he's David Mayo, and he's being asked to start. He's way out-leveraged as a starter. It's too much exposure. And eventually, as a starter, as a middle linebacker in this league, you're going to have to cover a number 3 receiver in space. He can't do it. And so what you have here is players that are not good enough to be in the positions they're being asked to be in, but there's no alternatives, which is why on a micro level yesterday, Jack, good initial game plan, good adjustment, don't have the horses. The problem for Del Rio and also Rivera is that they picked the horses. They picked these guys and put them in those positions. So it is a macro, big picture, terrible reflection of them, which is why they won't be here next year. But within the game yesterday, I thought they set up the players as well as they possibly could have. The players need to freaking play better, but also if they need to play better every week, I have to have questions about how you teach and how you coach so that you get rid of this inconsistency from a guy like St. Juice. Why is it the same stuff every week? Eventually, that is also a reflection of the coach and the people that picked him, the coach, the general manager, the scouts, etc. That is my spiel on the defense and where I think it is. That said, I think the offense could have helped them out yesterday. We'll start there next. It's 1st and 10, the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Let's continue with our 1st and 10. We start each and every show on a Monday with this 1st and 10. 10 observations from the game. First two, Sam Howell, good. Defense, bad, which brings us to
number 3.
If your defense does not have the horses, and you know this, your offense needs to help them out. Did the offense do enough to win yesterday? Maybe, but not with this defense, and that's something that they can control. And this is where I think your head coach has to step in, and Ron Rivera admitted today he's not willing to do that because he is putting Sam Howell's development over the team. That is a topic we are going to circle back to for sure. Those are not Rivera's words directly, but they almost are. You can't hold a team defensively to 4 of 14 on third down and lose time of possession. And that's exactly what Washington did yesterday. Their defense actually held Seattle to 4 of 14 on third down, which is very good. Unfortunately, they gave up a ton of first downs on first and second down, so that's a little bit misleading. But if you do that, if you're able to get the opposing team off the field enough that it's 4 of 14 on third down, then you need to be able to hold the ball and convert on offense enough to make that where you're holding the ball for a majority of the game. And it wasn't a huge discrepancy. It was like 30, 45 seconds. But what are we doing? And where did it go wrong? And I think that Eric Bieniemy's unwillingness to run the football is the cause here of this. Obviously, that's actually not that insightful or brilliant of analysis, but it has this larger global impact on the game. Because when at least you run, let's say you have an incompletion versus a run for no gain. What's the difference? In a run for no gain, the clock keeps running. And if you have an incompletion, the clock stops. So, on top of all the other things, making it harder for your quarterback to be successful, making your offensive line pass block a ton, putting extra decisions on your quarterback, the schematic advantages of when a team has to respect the fact that you're going to run it. All that stuff goes out the window. You also have the realistic, trickle down of the defense has to play way more snaps. They played 80 snaps yesterday. That's Eric Bieniemy's fault. Is not as much as Jack Del Rio's or as much as the defensive players, but it is partly Eric Bieniemy's fault. And so I'll go. Actually, I'm gonna reorder my chart here.
Number 4.
It's not about for the offense scoring more. It's about not being so bad when you're bad. So, the scoring drives, good. The point production, solid. But can you not go 3 and out as often? Can you go 5 and out? Can you go 7 and out? Can you convert 1 or 2 first downs to give your defense a blow, to shorten the game down a little bit, to change field position? And the where did it go wrong? The crux of my complaints with the Commanders' offense yesterday are the final 3 drives of the first half, which in total are 9 plays from scrimmage, 12 if you count the punts, which I will mention that because I also did the math in terms of time of possession, which counts the punts. 4 minutes, 8 seconds over 3 drives. So that is a minute and 30-ish a drive. No first downs. And what is the play call discrepancy on that? Why is this so important? Why is this so illustrative? Because on those 3 drives where you go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, it is 8 passes to 1 run. The final drive is only 53 seconds long. That is why the Seahawks are running so many plays. That is why, even though you give up 9 points in the first half, and we'll get to part of the reason why it was only 9 in a second, but 9 points in the first half, and your defense just completely collapses in the fourth quarter because they're dog-ass tired. It matters. And the whole history of football seems to prove this. You do score with the passing game, but you can win games by sprinkling in enough of a run, or a run threat, that you keep the schematic advantages of balance and that you play complementary enough football with field position and with time of possession that you don't put as much pressure on your defense. And I think that Eric Bieniemy has failed the Commanders' defense miserably in that regard this year. And I don't think it's necessarily in the top 3 to 4 reasons, perhaps even, that the defense is bad, but it certainly is not helping. And if you're Ron Rivera and you're the head coach and you're supposed to have a global view of this, it'd be really nice if you said, hey man, we got to run the football a little bit. Those guys are dying. Just a thought. Continuing on.
Number 5.
Back to the defense. The situational execution is just awful in this game. And the end of both halves is brutal. And that is, unfortunately, par for the course for this team. The Seahawks the Commanders are giving up more points at the end of the first half than any other team on the year, a trend that would have continued if Geno Smith hadn't lost his mind on the final play where he intentional grounds on a play with 7 seconds left and they run out the clock. That is a drive that is upheld thanks in large part to a first down by penalty by John Allen. And was there any doubt in the world that they were going to give up the final field goal drive? No. That just the fact that we all know it is the point. I don't need to get much deeper than that. The fact that we all know it is the point. When you got to have it, they don't have it. And that is the sign of a bad defense.
Number 6.
Also a sign of a bad defense. Defensive penalties killed them yesterday. Man, 5 of the 6 accepted penalties from the Commanders were on the defensive side of the ball. And I mentioned the Allen play. You also have BSJ having the pass interference late. That's a killer. They followed it up with 12 men on the field. It's like super key situations that you are screwing up and giving first downs by penalty. There's 4 of them yesterday, and the third one, or the other one, obviously Emmanuel Forbes, unnecessary roughness penalty. We'll get there in a second. But you just can't give away drives like that. That's again, is Eric Bieniemy the biggest reason that they give up 80 plays yesterday? No, he's a contributing factor. Maybe the biggest reason is the penalties, because you just extend drives for free for the offense. Can't happen. Can't win with it. And unfortunately, I think it was worse yesterday than it has been, but is not necessarily a new phenomenon. All right, a couple quick hitters to wrap this up.
Number 7.
I love that they're using the screen game more. I don't get why there's so many tight end screens to John Bates. Bates is a fine football player. He's a great backup tight end that is a reliable blocker and can do a little bit in the pass game. He's not the guy that I'm drawing up screens for on a team with this many weapons.
Number 8.
Cameron Cheeseman, bad snaps. And I'm not going to lie, there's a small sadistic part of me that wanted that game to come down to a Commanders game-winning field goal where there was a bad snap and it bit Rivera in the ass because he didn't take care of it in the preseason. The bad snaps were back. He said after the game, they were good when it mattered. Sure, but I hope that Cameron Cheeseman takes some exorbitant part of his salary and buys something nice for Tress Way, because Tress has saved his bacon a ton this year.
Number 9.
I thought about the 2-point conversion more at the end. I still would have gone for it. I'm curious to know what the numbers say, but I do think it's not quite as obvious as I thought at the time. The reason being, I was like, I cannot believe Rivera's not going for it at the time. The reason is this. If you play for overtime and you get a 3-and-out situation or a quick stop, now, of course, no matter what, you need to get the stop. And I would rather have it, if we get the stop, boys, we win the game. Right? If you convert, obviously, if you don't convert, well, then you've already lost the game and the stop doesn't matter. But if you kick the PAT, you make it. Excellent. Good. Love that. You now get 3 stops in a row, or 3 downs in a row. The offense is probably going to punt it, or maybe even after 1st and 2nd down, if it's a 3rd and 14, you get a sack, whatever. They might just take a knee and go to overtime, as opposed to going for it on 4th down, going all out, trying to make it. That is a risk I would have still taken at that point in the game. However, it's not as indefensible as I felt at the time because of the timeout situation. Obviously, what is indefensible is the way the defense played, making all of that somewhat irrelevant.
Number 10.
Also indefensible is the absolutely absurd explanation and the decision in the first place to eject Emmanuel Forbes. To say that he wasn't making a play on the ball is lying to our face. He did it very poorly, and it absolutely deserved an unnecessary roughness penalty. But to eject a player because there's incidental helmet-to-helmet contact is a joke. And the league should be embarrassed, and they should come out today and say we screwed up. And the fact that that came from New York, where you have a professional referee sitting watching a slow-motion replay, is embarrassing. And I'm tired of referees who are paid lots of money to sit in a room and watch a television screen lie to our faces about what is happening on our television screens. That is First and 10. We start the show with 10 observations every single Monday here following the Commanders game. In this case, a loss, 29-26 to the Seahawks. Of course, my first reaction always comes instantaneously. That is with Logan Paulsen on Take Command. You will hear what we said about this one and why Logan has his eyes on the offense, not the defense, next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Michael Phillips joins us top of the hour. Of course, 910 The Fan, the Washington Times Commanders beat reporter. We are talking to Michael every Monday, like we always do during football season. Get his thoughts on the game at 5 p.m. Right now, though, time for Logan Paulsen's thoughts on the game from our Take Command podcast recorded last night, late night. The full podcast is available and has more thoughts on the offense itself, but we started talking about the defense and kind of the blame game that goes around on that side of the ball.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Welcome in, Take Command podcast. post-game edition. Craig Hoffman, Logan Paulsen with you. Commanders go down at the buzzer in Seattle, 29-26. If there's one thing for me to be happy about, Logan, it's that I predicted it would be a 3-point Seattle win. As people might be able to tell from the sound of my voice, that is not or the tenor of my voice, that is not bringing me a whole lot of joy. There's a lot to talk about from this game. We'll do our best in about 30 minutes here, and then obviously we'll dive deep into the tape coming up on Tuesday morning. That podcast will be out Tuesday afternoon / Wednesday morning, depending on if you're talking about audio or video. But Logan, I'm just gonna leave it open-ended. Final whistle blows. You've already done post-game on the team site with their stuff. Where does your mind go with this one? Because there's plenty of areas to be frustrated, plenty of areas probably to look at and be like, hey, they actually did a good job in that thing. But why do they lose the game ultimately?
So it's interesting. When I watch these games and when I compare them to what we watched last year, we've talked a lot of football, me and you, over the last 3 years. And I think one of the things that is nice for me on some level is that this team is a competitive football team. They're in every game, and they're not in a game where it's they get a late score and they're still down by 7. They get a late score and they're in the game. And so I know that's not exactly, lighting people's hair on fire, but I think this is a more competitive product week in and week out than it has been the last couple of years. Now, that's not super exciting, but I think that there's some validity to that. And I think ultimately, what I try to empathize with from a fan standpoint is why don't they come out the other end of these games with a win? Right. And so I just try to look at it high level right after the game. And the thing that comes to me is I think defensively, I know they gave up 498 yards of total offense. And I know that that's a huge number. But I also feel when you look at the box score, when you look at kind of the game flow, what sticks out to me is that I thought they played well enough to win, which is going to sound insane. And I know that sounds crazy, but
when you lose by 3, by definition, you're kind of in it. So there's that.
But I thought they did enough. I think what was the third down percentage for?
They're 4. Seattle was only 4 of 14 on third down.
Yeah, 4 of 14, which is what you needed to do. I felt like the really big deciding factor for the defense, quite honestly, was that explosive play to Walker. That was the turning point in the game. And we talked about it a lot. And I was just going through my notes after the game, and the first field goal they have is there's a 19-yard completion to DK Metcalf, right? Prior to that, there's a 16-yard completion. So they got these 2 explosive chunks. Get them down for field goals, right? And both those come on first down. It's not it's third and whatever. It's the first down efficiency for them was big. And that's what we talked about on the pregame show, was just managing their explosive plays. And I think on the whole, you look at it and you say, they did a pretty good job of managing explosives until the Walker run. And then there's that drive. There's the last drive of the game for Seattle where Lockett has a 20-yard completion, which is an explosive play, which leads to points. And then there's that sequence of penalties by Benjamin St-Juste. And it was Benjamin St-Juste holding, and then there was an illegal something on the field. There was a sequence of penalties. They had
12 in the huddle, yeah.
Right. So I look at it and I say, man, that's pretty frustrating. So then why did the defense give up so many points, having played kind of a competitive down? And we could talk about St-Juste and Fuller and how the Seattle receivers kind of got after what I would say kind of got after our DBs. But ultimately, they were in competitive positions. There weren't any big coverage busts outside of the one Walker play, which is kind of what we were calling for. And I think both of us kind of fundamentally understand at this point that they're not a world-beating defense. They can be a solid defense.
Correct.
And I thought there were shades of solid defense today, minus 3 or 4 plays. And even after the fumble, even after Sam's fumble, they forced Seattle to go 3 and out there, and they get 0 points. So They did some big boy stuff this game. So for me, what's the difference? And I say offensively, there was probably, I think that was, let me think if I can remember, it was probably 5 or 6 drives where it's either ending in a punt or a field goal where they could have just put a stranglehold on this game. And they just didn't do it. And I'm an offensively biased person. I'm an offensive player. I'm an offensive coach. I look at it through an offensive lens, and I'm sorry. But I say if they wanted to win this game, they could have taken hold of this game more demonstratively early and said, we're going to sustain drives. We're going to get first downs. We're going to score touchdowns, not field goals, and put this thing in the bag. And that's probably confusing and somewhat confounding for fans to hear, but that's how I look at it. I thought that to me is the difference, because I think ultimately Seattle runs 15 more offensive plays than the Commanders, which is a significant amount of plays. That's
13 more, but close
13
enough.
more.
74-61, the
Right.
final tally.
Which is a significant amount of offensive plays.
Yes.
Like that's a drive that could be 2 drives depending on how many explosives are in there. So I look at that and I'm like, that's where the discrepancy lies for me. And that's where you offensively have not held up your end of the bargain. Because that number, even in bad games, should be pretty close offensively. It's 68, 67, 65. And obviously that's not the case. So to me that's the deciding factor. And I know that's not exactly the most exciting thing to hear of all time.
No, and fans are going to be upset, and I'm going to quell some of their upsetness here for a moment because I'm going to make us focus on the defense for a second and make a few points. But I will say before we do that, by and large, I agree with you because that second and third quarter offensively is not good enough for where this team has been operating. And you don't even have to score. Like, you just have to possess the ball a little bit more and play a little bit better field position. But we'll circle back to the offense in a moment. To me, as I've kind of come to grips with this defense, and now we're at a point where we can't be like, whoa, they're only early in the season, we have to see what they do. Like, we know what they are, and that what they are is deficient in certain spots from a personnel standpoint. And that's why I think sometimes we wind up talking more offenses. We just accept the defense for what they are and who they are. I even thought Jack did a good job making adjustments in the game. I love that he started bringing pressure, and people are like, Del Rio sucks, why don't we talk about him instead of talking about EB's play calling? It's like, I thought Del Rio actually did a pretty good job today. The problem is his guys can't play, at least well enough to beat a team like Seattle on a day like today. And it's not that they're terrible football players, but I think that this team does not have guys on that side of the ball who finish plays, and specifically in the secondary. And it's why they drafted Forbes, and that call to eject him is hellacious. I used a different word on Twitter, but I won't say that word here. That way William doesn't have to bleep stuff. But that was terrible. It's 100% a penalty. Ejecting him for that is an absolute joke. So you lose him, which obviously affects a lot of stuff. But ultimately, Benjamin St-Juste has now for years on end been the same guy who's in position and can't finish a play. I think also another problem for them today is there's no turnovers forced. And you want to get off the field, you got to force some, and they don't. And, in big spots, there's a lack of attention to detail. Seattle gets 4 first downs from penalties on Washington in this game. That is how you lose football games defensively. And so, yes, do they have some players that are very, very good? Absolutely. But there is a lack of attention to detail and an inability to finish plays that has plagued this defense, not just this year, but to an extent for 4 years. And that is going to be ultimately why you're probably going to have a new defensive staff next year. And I don't say that oh, hooray, cool, firing people. These are human beings. But realistically, the way that the data is trending, you don't get to be one of the worst point production defenses in the NFL and continue forward. That is the nature of this league, unfortunately. And I think if they could help themselves out with finishing plays, creating turnovers, making sure that you don't get on the wrong end of yet another poster, having DK Metcalf do your lockdown celebration in your face on consecutive third, fourth down type of situations, that's how you win in this league. And unfortunately, I just don't think, and I'll even add another one, right? Percy Butler. Percy's a fantastic athlete. He's been great on teams for them for the last couple of years. He's fine in a spot as a third rotational safety. But when he's out there playing starters minutes, you see some of the deficiencies. You see why he was a later round pick despite that athleticism. The missed tackle on the Walker play, that's Percy's tackle to make. And that's the second straight week they've given up a 64-yard touchdown to an opposing running back on something that Percy Butler, while others in front of him made mistakes to let it get there, which is an important thing to point out, ultimately is the last line of defense and can't finish the play. And I think that's the theme defensively, where schematically, you actually go hats off to the coaches. These guys are in good positions. They're there to make the plays. They got to make them. And at some point, that's on the players. And I think, we've seen enough volume at this point to go, I don't know that these are the players that are going to do that. And it's up to them to prove us wrong and improve over the next 8 weeks or however many weeks we got left at this point, 7.
Yeah, and to be fair to Percy, obviously misses the tackle there. I thought this was one of his more consistent football games. He did some stuff.
Made some other plays.
Some other stuff. And obviously, I like to reserve kind of final judgment for the film breakdown. And you said something, and I think there's a lot of truth to it while we were kind of getting ready for this segment, with regards to St. Just. And I think St. Just is a good football player. I think he's in good position. I think he understands route concepts. Like, all those things are really important. Like, he draws the toughest matchup every single week for a reason. And you said, well, like, he's probably not a true one, like a guy that can just sustain that over the course of the year. And I think when you look at how this team was built and the expectation, I think was probably that Forbes was going to be the true one and draw some more of those tougher matchups. And St. Just, then you say, oh, he can be the nickel and Fuller can be the other corner. And then all of a sudden the dynamic totally shifts. And, I think we're talking about St. Just and Fuller and Forbes in a much different way if they got the development from Forbes early. Now, that's not to be super critical of Forbes, but he hasn't developed the way that I think that they had hoped initially. And that's just an assumption. I haven't talked to anybody in the building about it.
For sure.
But I think that changes the dynamic of that group. And so for St. Just to kind of consistently draw these really, really, really tough matchups every week and then lead the league in pass breakups, like, obviously there's a certain level of production there. But to your point, because he's in tight position, he always ends up on the poster. And, like, it's kind of a high leverage situation at the end of the game, and he gives up 2. And I'm sure he would tell you he's got to be better. And, he's right there. He's in the pocket of the guy, and he gets the PI. I think is the other one that I would kind of call attention to, which is a little bit unfortunate because I feel like the timing of Geno Smith kind of disrupting his drop there disrupted St. Just's break on the ball, and it leads to a PI. So it's not.
He almost played it too well. Like, that is unlucky, but, like, at the end of the day, he's there early, and
I'm not
like,
saying,
what do you want him to do? It's like, I don't know, but, like, it's PI. Like, and if that happened to Terry, like, we'd all be like, that's got to get called.
And I'm not saying that that's not a penalty. I'm just saying, like, it's a little bit. There is some context for that, and like you said, he's got to make the play ultimately. And I think he would tell you the same thing. I'm 100% positive. But I think that's where you kind of say, like, this is something we were concerned about coming into the game, is knowing that there was these 3 horsemen on the other side, these 3 horses who were kind of the most dynamic receiving group that they've seen since Philly. And they played like it. They played good football today. And I think that's got to be a point of frustration for the defense. And I think that's the other thing is, like, despite that, this is a competitive football game, and that's the tough thing I'm having a hard time reconciling here, because I feel like if the offense, like you said, had been a little bit more able to sustain drives, but on the field a little bit longer, possess the football a little bit better, and finish drives, I don't think this is even a conversation. I just think when you give an offense like that's that explosive and that dynamic more bites at the apple, like, that's what happens when you have explosive playmakers. That's what happens when you get Walker touches a ton, is that he's going to make a play. DK Metcalf will make a play at some point if you give him more opportunities. And they gave this offense 15 more opportunities at the apple, or 13 more opportunities. Now, that's a defense. They got to get off the field. But I feel like ultimately, Craig, and you can stop me if you disagree, they did. I mean, they did a good job on third down of making plays when they had to. And I don't know, it is a frustrating outcome. But I think what I kind of harken back to is that despite this being very frustrating for me and frustrating for fans, I think that this team there's a competitiveness here because of the quarterback that gets you excited.
Yes,
and
that is true.
He could have played better tonight. I'm sure he would tell you the same thing. They could have maybe called a better game, whatever that is. And that's something for the Tuesday pod to kind of break down what exactly is going on there. But I think the competitive nature of this team is something that I'm excited about. Like, they're in a game with Seattle, who last year I would have said no chance. And this year, like, well, Sam's playing good ball. Evie's calling good football games. Maybe there's a shot. And look, and lo and behold, despite kind of a poor offensive production for 2 quarters of this game, they're in it in the 4th quarter with a chance to win the football game.
And they still scored 26. Like,
yeah.
There's plenty there. I think, to wrap up the defense, one thing, by the way, that I'm curious to look at on tape, I feel like the game changed a little bit when James went out. I feel like they were kind of containing Seattle, doing a good job, and I think Obata had a rough one. I felt like there was multiple times where I was yelling at the TV, like, where are you going, bro? And some of those runs that get out and, like, some of that stuff happened towards FA side. We'll see if that holds true on tape. Sometimes that's really hard to see. Often it's really hard to see on TV, but kind of a stick a pin in it. We'll come back to it Tuesday. But also, like, we're 94 and 93. Can those two get a dominant game this year. Like, that is what you're paying them for. That is how they played last year, and it just hasn't been. And maybe that's something we should dive deeper on a tape of, like, why have those two been so relatively to what they're capable of and what we saw previous years quiet this season. We can dive into that perhaps on Tuesday. Anything else on the defense? We kind of talked about Jack real quick, but I actually, we talked during the week, like, do you play soft shell coverage and try to be conservative, or do you heat Geno up? And I thought heating him up.
He did both.
Yeah, second half, they really, were like, screw this, we're heating him up. And I think they did a really good job. I think that was a great adjustment. And it shows you that you have some more tricks in your bag potentially moving forward. But ultimately, not enough. And I guess here would be my last thing on the defense. And this might be a much better Tuesday topic. And maybe even this is what we do take 5 on Tuesday morning. First thing that come out. That last 2-minute drive. Like, I know it's a tough spot, but, like, what are you doing there that you know field goal is what they got to get, and it just, there's no resistance. It felt like a foregone conclusion, and that's not good.
And it'll be interesting to look at that, because I think they had a pressure that they had brought twice in that game, and they had Cam Curl as a free runner both times. And I felt like they brought that pressure for the third time right there, and they picked it up. And so then you get St. Juste in a spot where he's defending like essentially a post in a zero situation with no underneath help. And that, again, like, I don't want to sound like I'm defending St. Juste, but in that situation,
that's a tough freaking spot.
That's a tough look. And he's there. He's in position, right? But it's –
and you want to force – like, you want to keep outside leverage. You want to force that middle so they have to burn a timeout or the clock keeps running. Like, he plays it on the right side of it. It's just like it's a one-on-one drill with a two-way go. Like, if the pressure doesn't challenge the throw, like, that's a tough
and I think that's the thing about that last play specifically. It's like that – I like the call. Maybe you went to the well one too many times with that pressure, and then you're putting your corner in a tough spot versus a good football player, a guy who's big and you can win one-on-one. And shoot, like, that's the result. And so, I thought another thing that showed up for me from the defense is the play action stuff. I thought Seattle did a really good job with that in terms of creating pockets. And I will say, I thought the rush, everyone's going to be all hot about Montez and Chase being gone and not getting any pressures, but I thought the rush has been actually comparable to when Chase and those guys were here.
It wasn't spectacular when they were here.
Yeah, and I think that they've been pretty consistent, and James has been creating pressure. I thought Casey had some nice pressures. I feel like when I watch John and Casey work together, they seem to be more on the same page, and you're getting a more dynamic and assertive John Allen. And obviously, like, we got to look at his production and see where he's at. But I think that's all good stuff. I thought Jamin Davis showed up big time today. In some spots. Obviously, the Tyler Lockett play is like right over his outstretched hands. I don't know how you play that really any better. Maybe you got to get deeper. Maybe when I watch the film, I'll be able to give you better insight. But from a run standpoint, I thought he was very physical. He fit runs well. And, obviously that's just kind of high level stuff. He had 10 tackles. He's going to flash. And then Cam Curl, I thought, did a good job kind of being where they needed to be. But again, we'll see how that all looks on the all 22. But it's frustrating me because I do feel like this has been the most, is consistent the right word, Craig? This has been the best they've played recently in terms of not allowing just those free runners down the middle of the field. And that's something that I wanted to see. So I saw it. So I'm kind of happy with it, because there's not coverage busts, right? But they still lose the football game, and it's still not good enough to win. So I think that's the thing where I'm kind of negotiating it as a fan of the team and someone who watches the team a lot, is like Jack called a pretty good game. I thought they were competitive for the majority of the game, and it wasn't good enough. And I just look back to that.
I think that's the conclusion, right? It's just, I don't think right now the players are good enough, which is not good for a side of the ball that you've invested much of your capital in over the course of your tenure. If you're Ron Rivera, that is reflective at this point, and is something that he's going to have to reconcile at the end of the season when he sits down with Josh Harris, and the future of the franchise is decided. All right, that is from Take Command. The full podcast, including our thoughts on the offensive side of the ball, are available now in your podcast feed. Check that out, Apple, Spotify, or the free Odyssey app. Full episode also available on YouTube at 1067 The Fan. When we get back, Michael Phillips joins us on a Misery Monday here on The Hoffman Show. Hour 2 on a Monday, a Misery Monday, on the Hoffman Show, Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. This spot 24 hours from now, tomorrow on Not My Beat, we're going to welcome in Seth Walder, who's the head of ESPN's analytics department for the NFL. And I am very much looking forward to this conversation because I kind of, like last week is when Seth and I, or a couple weeks ago, Seth and I connected and we were going to try to have him on and he had to go on a trip and blah, blah, blah. But he's very familiar with Eugene Shen and his work. And he has a great understanding of how analytics are actually used in the NFL, which is a player development, a player selection process, obviously in-game decision-making. So I would like to talk to Seth about what analytics in the NFL actually look like. Maybe give us some examples of how different formulas work and how they inform decision-making. So tomorrow, Seth Walder, ESPN, right here at Not My Beat, 5 o'clock in this spot. However, on a Monday following a Commanders game, you know that Not My Beat is time for our friend Michael Phillips.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Michael Phillips with us from 910 The Fan in Richmond, MP on the mic. You know it, you love it, on the free Odyssey app every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon and every Monday after a game with us here on the Hoffman Show. Miguel, what an adventure that was yesterday.
My goodness, yeah. I said on my show, I wish I were madder about this. Like this is the sort of win that, like, if you're a real team, like, you just get blood boiling mad over that, squandering that. And I can't do it. I'm trying my best, but I can't do it.
Well, that was the weird thing for me was last night, we're doing Take Command, and I was not in a great mood. But at some point during the recording, Logan goes, well, you know, if the most important thing is Sam Howell, like, we're actually in good shape. And that's how I started the show today, is like, I know everyone wants to be mad, and we'll get to the mad stuff. But this Howell kid seems to still be on track to being real good. And if that's that, we all agree in a vacuum, like, that's the most important thing. Yesterday was a great day.
Sam was amazing. Like, let's talk about a few of those throws. First quarter, to Brian Robinson on the move, a little bit of sidearm to it. Like, not a lot of dudes that can do that. That was Mahomesian, if I may overhype the kid, which is unfair to him, I understand as well.
I mean, it's one throw, but you're 100% correct. Like, that was Mahomesian.
A game on the line, kid is just nails to De'Ami Brown down the field, exactly where it needs to be. That shows you something about the kid and what you're working with here, and it makes you really excited and want to overlook that it's been 3 years and 10 games of just big play disasters on the defense, because, man, this kid is exciting. And look, he's the starter for the 2024 season right now. And I think it would take a lot to change my mind on that between now and then.
Yeah, no, I think we're getting there. I mean, by the same token, I'm trying to remember that it's been now 11 games, 12 total for him as a starter, right? Or is it 10? No, 10 this year, 11 total with the Dallas game
Correct.
last year, because they're 4-6. Math.
I was told there would be no math.
Yeah, no, that there shouldn't have been, and that's why we're here stumbling over our words and our numbers. But alas, like, if he stinks up the joint for the last whatever number of games, then that still is on the table. But, like, I just don't see that. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, that's the thing. At this point, I'm safely in a place where I'm like, yeah, could it? Sure. Do they have to make any declaration now? No, and nobody here is going to be in their jobs next year except for the owner anyway, or the director of senior VP of analytics, whatever Eugene Shen is. So, like, none of them saying it matters anyway. But as an analyst, like, yeah, it's pretty obvious that he is on track to being the guy.
If I may gush over him further, we had sacks again yesterday, right? Sacks were reintroduced. There were 3 of them. I felt like we're more manageable, and the one that almost knocked him out of field goal range, that's a dangerous one to take on a third down and you have 3 points on the board. I felt like the other 2, though, it didn't kill the game. It didn't just like destroy momentum or like set them back irreparably. I wasn't scared every time he dropped back in the second half. They felt more like one-off instances. And I think he probably on the net should have averaged about 1 interception yesterday with the throws and the danger level he made. I think if you run that game back, he probably has one. But he's really done a nice job of minimizing those turnovers. 3 sacks, I think you can probably sustain at that level if he's also making the throws he made. It really cancels each other out or compensates in a way.
100%. And, like, yesterday's a day where I think if it's earlier this season, he takes 8 or 9 sacks. Like, there was pressure yesterday. And I just pulled up PFF real quick. Like, their pressure to sack ratio yesterday for him is 13.6%. That is very livable, as opposed to the 39% it was earlier this year. So he's literally cut his role in turning pressure into sacks by 2/3 to a third of what it was. So that is, to me, was the biggest question earlier in the season, because a lot of quarterbacks never go out of that. And he has already in 7-8 games since the number was that high grown out of it. So that's good. Michael, we've now reached the end of the good.
Well, it's a great point by you that he did feel pressure. It wasn't that the Seahawks didn't pressure them. It was that he is learning and growing. I was always skeptical of this fatal flaw talk. Like, you worry about it, but there's been so few quarterbacks in this mobile quarterback era that it felt premature to declare that it's never fixable. It probably felt a little more right to say it hasn't been done yet.
That's fair. I mean, I do think that it is a trait that over the course of NFL history, and the scouts will tell you, like, that's one that's really hard to fix, but he's done it. So good job, Sam. Excellent work. You were that guy in college. You were early in your pro career, and lo and behold, you've taken some coaching well. You've developed a feel for the pocket, and voila. On the other side of the ball, I'm actually curious, like, how obviously the statistics are terrible. The production is, at the end of the day, bad. They give up 498 yards. They give up 29 points. Like, those are not good numbers. But how poorly do you think the defense played yesterday?
You asked me a few weeks ago, and I think kind of got this conversation going regionally to an extent. Are the defensive players not as good as we think they are, or are the defensive coaches not good? And that question was rattling around in my brain yesterday, because you definitely had, like, and I'm thinking of, obviously Logan be more qualified to break this down than me, but it on the last Metcalf completion, St. Juice plays him outside, gives him all that inside leverage. Like, I struggle with that. I don't think he's coached to do that.
Oh, I think he is in that situation, because you want to get, like, you don't want to give the sideline, like, you want to make him, like, you want to kill as much clock as possible. Right. And you're supposed to have help in the middle. He has no help to the outside. So you're doing, like, St. Juice has struggled with leverage at other points this year. But I would think at that point, like, you're giving him that route with an hope to contest the catch. And if he does make it,
You have help there. You can make a tackle, and hopefully the clock, runs pretty close to out.
Okay, I can buy that. That makes sense. Yeah, just right. Like this dilemma of like how much of this is the players and their execution versus the coaches and putting them in those spots. I love that there was more pressure given, more pressure on Geno Smith yesterday, especially at some key moments. I liked that. But I come down to, is it both? Like, how much of these guys do you want to keep the next year? Obviously, you're not keeping the coach. That's a given. We all understand that. But how many of these guys are legit starters for next year on a playoff team? And I don't think the number is as high as we thought it was coming into the season.
No, I think that's 100% true. And that'll bring us to the offensive stuff in a second. But I think that, like, you look at a day like yesterday and you go, like, Percy Butler's not the worst safety you've ever seen, but he's not good enough to be an NFL starter on a good team. And David Mayo obviously is playing for Cody Barton. Like, he was a backup. He is a backup. Yep. But and if he's a backup and has to start for a game, like, fine. He's now starting multiple games. That's going to eventually become a problem. And, like, even Benjamin St-Juste, who I feel like had a pretty rough one yesterday because he gets a bunch of plays made on him, it's because he's one position too high. If Benjamin St-Juste is your second corner in the NFL, I think you can be a good defense. If he's got to face DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown and, like, the best of the best every week, you're screwed. And that's what happened yesterday.
In a lot of ways, it was almost better that St-Juste was the one swallowing that pill and not Forbes, because we've broken that kid enough this year.
Yeah.
St-Juste can handle it. He can bounce back from that. I think he's confident. He'll be fine long term, and he'll be what he is. I would have hated for Forbes to be the guy getting broken in key situations again. You're messing with the kid long term at this point if you do that.
Right. Well, the referees really secured that one for you early. Good job.
Oh,
refs.
Boy.
That was terrible.
Dude, come like a minute and a half later, New York radio's in. Like, this whole New York thing, I get where they're coming from, and Mike Pereira's called for this for years, for the Sky Judge, right, for a guy to be able to see it on TV, radio in, get the call changed right away so you don't have to deal with the stupidity of the replay system. But what a terrible time to invoke that and use that, just as it was 2 weeks ago when they radio in that Dotson didn't catch the pass, when we had nothing resembling conclusive evidence. The thing I said on my show, though, is the game's not rigged. Don't tell me it's rigged. You know it's not rigged. You know how I know it's not rigged, Craig? Because the guy they tossed was Emmanuel Forbes. Like, if you're going to try to rig a game for the Seahawks, maybe toss somebody else.
Yeah. Sam Howell, illegal something. Goodbye. Yeah, no. I think the thing that's so frustrating about this one yesterday is, like, you read Nikki does a great job, as she always does as the pool reporter, like, going to talk to the referee. And the guy, they're like, oh, yeah, he launched and led with his head. Like, there's no play on the ball. And it's like, don't tell me that. No. We saw the video. No. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that to me is the crazy thing. I like the process. I like the fact that there is someone somewhere with a TV screen that can go, like, yeah, let me look at this and, like, get it correct. Why can't that person seem to get it correct with any regularity? Like, that person should never miss. You're a professional official who's looking at a freaking slow motion play. How hard is it?
The other reason you should never miss is because you don't have to say anything, right? When in doubt, just stay silent. There's referees there. It's their job. They're handling the game. You should only interject when it is obvious and blatant. And that's not what happened here. Nikki, by the way, I do think leads the league in pool reports. That's an unofficial statistic, but I'll bet it's her.
I think she's got to be up there. We'll have to check with PFF on that. I think they track those things. Michael Phillips is with us, 910 The Fan in Richmond, of course, also writing in the Washington Times, so you can catch his written work there. Listen to him on the free Odyssey app. So, Michael, if we accept that this defense is just not very good, to me, that means the offense has to play differently. The offense has to find a way to support the defense. I think they have failed to do so. Is that an undue burden on the offense, or are you in agreement with me here?
Well, if your goal is to make the playoffs and win games, sure. It feels almost like the offense is chasing a different goal here of long-term development. And nobody likes to hear that, right? Because these games are also important and you play everyone to win. It does feel like a lot of Eric Bieniemy's play calling has been calling to develop and not calling to win, which there's a distinction there. So I think you got to define what you're after before you decide how you want to chase it necessarily. I was very encouraged by going to the run late. And so there's the question, right? How much of that is they went to the run and it worked because they haven't run and they were surprised? And how much of it is that's sustainable and that could work? I definitely broadly agree with you. I just think for Monday, for Misery Monday, for reaction time right now, here as we talk about this Monday evening, I just think that my immediate gut reaction is the defense is bad. So the takeaway is time to clean house. Let's go get everybody out of here, as opposed to like, what can first-year coach Eric Bieniemy and first-year starter Sam Howell do to prop up Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera, guys who have had 4 years and pick the groceries here and aren't cooking a good dish with them?
No, I mean 100% on the big picture in terms of like that meal.
But I don't disagree with you on. Yeah, I don't disagree with you on the small picture though. Like, especially like, and you know, I'll do the radio move. It's a must-win game this week. The Giants are so bad, so bad. You can't let the Giants have your number in this one against Danny DeVito or whoever their quarterback is. You can't do it. This is it. And so this would be the week to take that advice to heart and say, look, let's shelve the development. This is a football game we got to win, and then we can get back to doing what we do.
Yeah, I would just question, though, is that actually the best thing for development? Because they hit a super slog in the middle of that game yesterday when they get super one-dimensional, and it makes Sam's job impossible. And, like, the receivers can't do anything. The safeties are just sitting over top of everything. They start to get a little bit more pressure, like Sam's under duress. And that's the thing that I think has killed me all year is I don't disagree with you that if I'm purely calling for development versus trying to win the game, it's going to look a little bit different. But I actually don't think they're that different. And I don't think EB and Ron, to the extent that Ron's involved in this, are doing Sam any favors. Just like call a game where he can go be successful. That's how you develop a quarterback. There's no quiz. There's no bonus points later because 3 years from now, he threw 2 extra passes in bad situations. Like, that's not going to be the difference in his development or not. Just let him be good. Like, that would be great. And I don't think they're doing a good job of setting him up for that. And as a result, it's having a negative impact on the team at large.
I'll nod along with that to a large extent. I think you've got the black and white of this, which is Sam Howell, I think right now, has proven he deserves a chance to be the quarterback next year. I think we all agree on that. Obviously, things could change, but he's done enough. Ron Rivera has done enough so you know he doesn't get to be coach next year. That's all. That's finite. Eric Bieniemy exists in this gray area of like has done some things. Is he like should he be considered for coach next year? Sure. Is he like a home run pick? Not really. You wouldn't want to saddle a new coach with having to take him at offensive coordinator, but it'd be kind of nice if he considered it. Maybe like it's a very gray area on Bieniemy and the play calling. I will say something nice though to finish this thought, and that is I love throwing the ball to B-Rob. He's got great hands. He's got great vision. I think he's a real underutilized asset in that pass catching role. He's got a nice feel with Sam Howell too.
I agree with that. I think it's. Thanks, Sam, for that. And by and large part, because a lot of that stuff is like off schedule. The 2 ones down the sideline, that's not by design. But EB did give him that nice choice route at one point that he took inside as like an angle route. So that was really nice from B-Rob. Like I would like to see that more. But yeah, he does feel Eric Bieniemy does feel like he's the one most up for evaluation. But also, I don't know what you're evaluating him for because, like you said, I don't want to hire. Let me put it this way: this is an off-season thing, but like we'll wrap up with this bigger thought. Like I want to hire an offensive head coach. The reason is if I want that person to pair with Sam because I think Sam's the guy. Which, if I had to make a decision now, easy, yes, he is. I don't want to lose Sam's guy, and so if you go hire a defensive head coach and be like, hey, you can keep EB. They go have an awesome year next year. EB's getting head coaching looks, and he might not be here very long. And so I would much prefer bringing in Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, like pick your guy, and having that person be the guy. And that person's probably not keeping Eric Bieniemy. So that's kind of I know that's looking way down the road, but like that's kind of where my head is on that topic, that decision, that whatever right now.
Dude, looking down the road is far preferable to looking back at what happened yesterday, especially defensively. Like, I just don't want to, I turned the TV off and I wasn't mad. It's like, what do you expect? What do you expect from these guys? There were 51 seconds left and we all knew they were going to lose the game. I devoted so little of my show today to whether they should have gone for 2, because it just doesn't matter in the end, honestly. When you just know whatever happens, they're going to go get a field goal. And that's why we're having these long-term discussions, because I am excited about the future of this team. I am excited for the salary cap space. I am excited for Sam Howell. I think Eric Bieniemy is the most question mark part of whether you're excited for the future or not. So I think it's a very intriguing topic.
Well, you're welcome on the rest of your week of radio, because it sounds like you're going to run.
Hey, we got a good week down here. We got VCU basketball back on Wednesday. College game day coming to JMU.
Oh.
Craig, dude, JMU football all week, every week. Fired up for that. We love our Duke listeners, and what a great time to be on that. So their coach, Kurt Signetti, is a Saban guy. We play the clips every week. He's such a Saban knockoff. It's fantastic. He's going to be so mad game day is there. We'll get good mileage out of that.
That is hilarious. Saban winds up doing more media than anyone, but he just gets super mad about it. He's like, media, this, whatever, that. And it's like, dude, you do McAfee Weekly. You're always on College Game Day. And the second your team's not in a college football playoff game, you're onto the game day set. What are you talking about, bro? Get out of here with that.
College is just the most fascinating world. Like I moved from covering college to covering pros, and like everything is different on the other side of that ledger.
Yeah, I'm very happy on the pro side. Although it does mean currently I primarily talk about the Commanders and the Wizards, and what a living that is.
Hey, at least the Caps are good. Maybe a little bit.
Sure.
Ovi. Let me rephrase that. At least Ovechkin scored 2 this weekend.
But Michael, then you have to do math.
I was told there would be no math.
Yeah, that's why we don't do that. We don't talk about it. It's like, what's interesting about the Capitals? They're counting Ovechkin down to the all-time. Oh, they're counting? No, sorry, we're out on that. Just tell us when he gets there. We'll throw a parade. Sounds good for us. Michael Phillips, 910 The Fan in Richmond. Listen to him on the free Odyssey app daily, 10 a.m. to noon. And, of course, read his work in the Washington Times on the Commanders. Miguel, muchas gracias, and we will talk to you next Monday.
De nada, hasta luego.
This is the Hoffman Show on the T980 and the Odyssey app.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Back half of the show on a Monday. And Anthony, you know what I just realized?
What?
It's freezing in here.
It did just drop.
I feel like this happens around this time every day. Do you wanna go make it warmer real quick?
Yeah, I got you, man.
And I'll tell the people what's coming up on the show. Coming up at 6 o'clock, it's our Pick 6 at 6. So we'll take a look back at these 6 players that we identified Friday that we thought would have a big impact on the game. I think we actually did a pretty good job. Unfortunately, some of them did not perform very well, and that's part of the reason the Commanders did not come out on top yesterday. But we'll review that at 6. 6:15, Dave Johnson joins us on a Wizards game day. The Zardos up in Toronto. Can they get back on the right track? Also, by the way, Anthony, real quick aside before we get into the around the NFL stuff here. Have you seen the viral video going around of Jordan Poole in the huddle this weekend? Not paying attention?
I have not.
Bro, it's not great. Like, I don't want to make too much of a video that's, like, chopped up, but, like, it sure seems like he ain't paying attention a lick to what Wes Unseld's saying and is not very involved and engaged. Then at the end is like, oh, let me take a peek at that board and check out the play. Oh, okay, I kind of got it.
Was this the fourth quarter?
Yeah. Like, and he's just been bad, man. Like,
was he not playing in this?
No. This is like, I don't even know if it was fourth quarter he was playing. Like, he was definitely while he was involved in the game.
Oh, snap. Yeah, that's bad stuff.
Yeah, you're like, hey, man, like, could you care a little bit more? At least make it look like you're caring a little bit more. I know you're pretty carefree, but again, the line between carefree and careless is a perilous one. Carefree, not the worst thing. Careless, not good. Not good at all. All right, time for the old Pickarooskies / the analysis. Every game around the league, and I feel like I watched a lot more football this weekend than usual because we were at Tap Sports Bar at MGM National Harbor. I don't know about you, Anthony, but I don't have 30 TV screens in one place in my home to actually be able to watch multiple games at once. Like, if I were home and the Commanders were playing at 4 o'clock, I would probably watch Red Zone. And often do watch Red Zone in the 4 o'clock window when I'm watching the road games at 1 o'clock at home. But it is definitely a different experience when you are able to keep an eye on a bunch of games at once and like truly get the feel and the flow of the game. So it was a fun weekend to watch football. Definitely recommend going out to see our friends at Tap Sports Bar. Typically, if you come before the 1 o'clock window, you can hear us in the show. They had the games on this weekend. A little bit of a different experience, but it was great. I actually had a buddy of mine that came out and was like, hey, I thought I'd be able to hear the show, but like, this is great because I can literally watch every game. You didn't lie about that. I was like, no, why would I lie to you? Why would I lie? I wouldn't lie. I'm a truth teller or something. Okay. What a start to the day it was. Your boys in Germany. Wow. Colts 10, Patriots 6. I have never seen a quarterback straight up benched for the last series of a game before. I'm sure it's happened in the course of the NFL, the NFL's history. The NFL is like 104 years old. But this cannot happen very often. And then to watch Bailey Zappi come in, throw a fake snap, and then throw a pick. Yikes, man. What a disaster they've got in New England. The Patriots are 2-8. 2-8.
I thought that was how they drew it up, to be honest.
I mean, maybe. But
I'm not going to lie. The fake spike did have, I think the front 7 of the Colts defenders, like, standing around. I guess the back end was alert because they seen, receivers running routes.
They were.
But,
and, like, the thing is, that looks like a way worse pick for Zappi than I think it should have been.
Yeah.
Because if the receiver just cuts in front of those DBs, like, you got a completion. And the receiver's job on a crossing route or an in-breaking route is to get across the DB's face. Like, you just can't let that be a pick. Then again, there's 3 guys there, so that becomes very difficult to not become a pick. So it's kind of a wacky bit.
I don't know what they were thinking on that one. Just even the thought of, bringing in a guy who's been on the bench cold, and just saying, all right, go win us the game. Go win us the game. And they took him out. They took Mac Jones out for throwing, interceptions. And then Bailey Zappi goes out there and he throws one as well.
Yeah, I mean, we said after the game last week, Logan was like, if I was Bill O'Brien, I would want to punch Mac Jones in the face. And there was a moment there on the sideline where it looked like Bill O'Brien was going to punch Mac Jones in the face. Just chewed him out. Like, what are you doing? Like, because the thing is, like, if you watch the tape, there's so much stuff, and obviously we just watched some New England tape because, you know, the Commanders just played them. Like, there's stuff that's open. And it's like, if we had like, Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, or, like, Gardner Minshew, or someone of the 45 quarterbacks on the planet who are better than Mac Jones, we'd be cooking here. Like, as a coordinator, I can't imagine how frustrating that is. And it's kind of the same thing to an extent is some of what they deal with here sometimes, where it's like, what do you want me to call? These guys can't execute anything. So there's no game plan that's execution proof. And that is the current state of the New England Patriots. Meanwhile, the Colts, 5-5 on the year. Zaire playing his tail off. What do you have, 12 tackles, 15 tackles this weekend?
15 tackles, 12 solo, 1 forced fumble.
Dude missed a game, and he's still the NFL's leading tackler.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And he still wasn't 100%. So.
Yeah.
And now they're going to the bye week. More time to rest.
We'll see if after the bye he's still leading the NFL in tackles. We have to make it up the week after. Texans and Bengals. Yo.
What a game.
C.J. Stroud is the truth. I read something this morning. The Athletic puts out like a daily newsletter, and they were like, is C.J. Stroud an MVP candidate? And I'm like, stop it. Wait, he's definitely an MVP candidate. Like, let's think about this, right? The Texans, everyone thought they were going to be terrible, like god-awful. Instead, they're 5-4. They're currently, I believe, in the playoffs. Stroud has thrown 2 interceptions on the entire season. He is top 10 NFL in like every passing category. He's playing outstanding football. CJ Stroud is actually 100% legitimately not the front runner, but a legit MVP candidate more than halfway through his rookie season. That is insane, and it is impressive. Well done, Houston Texans. Good job on the CJ Stroud scout.
Yeah, some people get it right, some people get it wrong, and I'm just glad CJ's out here breaking the Ohio State curse.
Yeah.
And also the game yesterday, I know Tyler Boyd is like, you know, punching the air and, you know, kicking the ground because the Bengals really had that game, Craig. Tyler Boyd drops a wide open touchdown, literally hits the front of his face mask at both hands, and they come up short. They end up kicking a field goal, and that's why, you know, CJ Stroud was able to put together a game-winning, you know, field goal drive.
Yeah, I mean, Stroud, that's the thing is like he leads another fourth quarter game-winning drive. The weekend after he has the walk-off touchdown. And by the way, like Nico Collins isn't even playing yesterday, one of his favorite targets. So what does he do? He finds Noah Brown 7 times for $172.
Hey, Lash.
Devin Singletary, by the way, 30 for 150 on the ground.
Yeah, that's.
How many plays did they run? Jesus Christ.
I don't know. It seems like a lot, right?
74. Because Singletary had 30 carries and Stroud still threw it 39 times. So they ran it 34 and 39 dropbacks. Or 39 pass attempts.
That's crazy. But look at Noah Brown also. Last year was with Dak. He had a little coming out party, and this year, all right, now Nico go down. Somebody got to step up.
It's crazy. By the way, Burrow in the loss, 27 of 40 for 347. Gets picked twice. Jamar, 5 for 124. Boyd, 8 for 117. They had a pair of 64-yarders in this game. Crazy. But they couldn't get the ground game going. Mixon just 46 yards on 11 carries. So ultimately, not enough for the Bengals, who had been rolling, but they're now just 5-4 on the year, equal with the Texans. Saints and Vikings. Holy cow, the Vikings are 6-4. Josh Dobbs did it again. They were awesome in the first half, held on to win it as Jameis Winston did Jameis Winston stuff in the second half. And the Saints defense is supposed to be good, and they did only give up 3 points in the second half. But in the first half, man, TJ Hawkinson had like 10 for 128 in the first half. He's only got, 1 for 6 in the second half. That's what you call a good adjustment. But Josh Dobbs gets another game ball from Kevin O'Connell after this one. Vikings 27-19 winners at home over New Orleans.
I knew Josh Dobbs, man, a gamer. First half, cooking. And yeah, I'm surprised about the Saints. You know, I think their offense got off to like a super slow start, but I mean, I think it just boils down to, you know, the quarterback play, to be honest.
As it stands right now, the Minnesota Vikings are in the playoffs.
Yes, they are.
They are the 7 seed as the last wild card team. New Orleans actually is also in despite the loss because at 5-5, they lead the NFC South.
Nice.
I hate it here. What a trash division that has been for years on end. By the way, picks-wise, we were good on the Colts over the Patriots.
Yep.
We both had the Bengals, yeah?
Yep.
And we both had the Saints?
Yep.
Dang. All right, so we're 1-2 going into Steelers and Packers. What a crazy game this was as well. The Packers had the ball in the air, going towards a receiver into the end zone for the win, and it gets tipped up and picked by the Steelers. They just keep finding ways. 23-19 the final, despite a 289-yard, 2-touchdown day from Jordan Love because he had those 2 interceptions.
Craig, it is hard to score on the Steelers in the red zone. We saw it last week against the Titans. A couple of weeks before that, we saw it against the Ravens. We see it just week in and week out, despite, you know, them being outgained in literally every game, they haven't been outscored. So it works, I guess. It's a winning recipe somehow.
I mean, it is bend but do not break. Like that's how it works. And when it works, it works. It just keeps down. It shortens the game. It keeps down what your offense has to do. And the Steelers play it really well.
Packers had 2 chances too. They had 2 of them.
Crazy. Meanwhile, in Tampa, 20-6, Bucks beat the Titans. The Will Levis excitement tempered quite a bit. Baker Mayfield, 278, 2 touchdowns, and a bunch of that 278 went to Mike Evans, who's still that dude. 6 catches, 143 and a touchdown. Rashad White also had a long catch for a touchdown. Tampa 4-5. If they can just piece together a little bit of a stretch, see what their schedule looks like. Like they're right there in the NFC South with New Orleans, and they've got another game against the Saints later this season, and they've still got Carolina twice. So like Tampa's got San Francisco this weekend. Good luck with that. Then they're at Indy, but then they've got Panthers, at Atlanta, at Green Bay, the Jags, Saints, and Panthers. They've definitely got a chance in this NFC South.
I hope they end up winning too. Again, the playoffs, I want, the best teams from each division. I think because of their schedule, I guess, they're at, you said 4-5?
They're 4-5.
Yeah, so I think their strength of schedule definitely does, get a little weaker in the latter parts of the season. So I hope they go on a run. I don't really want to see the Saints or the Falcons, and the Panthers have no chance.
I don't either. The Saints, by the way, have at Atlanta, then Detroit before Carolina, the Giants at L.A., which could have, as in the Rams, they could have Stafford back by then at Tampa, and then Atlanta. So Saints probably a little bit harder schedule, although they do have Carolina and New York soft spots in the middle there. It's going to depend on what happens in those Falcons games. And, of course, the Falcons also have a shot. We'll get to them in just a little bit. But Steelers, 23-19. Also, we both picked them, yes?
Yes, we did.
And then Buccaneers, we had them as well.
Yep.
All right, 3-2 for your boys. Niners and Jags. Well, Thursday, the Niners are going to stay in prime contenders, and the Jags will not be elevated. What a butt-whooping by San Francisco. Get everyone healthy, and they look just like they did when everyone was healthy. Brock Purdy, 3 touchdowns on the day, had 296 yards. McCaffrey, 16 for 95. We'll come back to him. Kittle, monster day, 3 for 116. All right, back to McCaffrey. They tried so hard at the end of this game to get him in the end zone.
Yep.
Could not. And thus, it was, sadly, it was his first time not scoring in 17 games.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey's streak comes to an end, but more importantly, the Niners look very much back on track, as my Super Bowl winner predicted.
The defense, man. The defense. 5 sacks on the day. Now they're back cooking, man. That's what I wanted to see. Again, they're led by the defense, and the defense is struggling. I don't really know if the 49ers can really be prime contenders, but defense went out there and balled. Offensively, Purdy, he looked like he got back on track. And then let's talk about these Jacksonville Jaguars, Craig, because, again, I just wanted them to go out there and,
it's like for once in your lives,
compete, play hard, beat the 49ers, prove to everybody that you really are prime contenders. And they went out there folding. The offense didn't get off, not a lot of rushing yards. Trevor Lawrence didn't have all that good of a day because he's just under duress the entire time. The Jaguars, you still got something to prove, y'all. Still got something to prove. I'm not sold.
No, I'm not either. And it's crazy because I would think that they're like I would have thought that they offensively would have something going.
Yeah.
Because they have so much talent. I like their wide receivers. Etienne's great. And Lawrence is supposed to be that guy. And he's just turning the ball over at a ridiculous rate. And he's not ascending to – it's like after what he showed in the playoffs last year and like kind of going toe-to-toe with Mahomes and all that and coming back against L.A. and the whole deal, you figured like this is the ascent. He's about to be one of the guys. He's not one of the guys. He's still ascending, hopefully, if you're Jacksonville. And we'll see if he can kind of meet that generational talent profile that he was supposed to. Meanwhile, back on McCaffrey, first time he hasn't scored a touchdown since they beat the Saints 13-0. That was basically a year ago, Sunday, November 27th of 2022. It is just the third game. Actually, the week before against Arizona, he also didn't score a touchdown. And his first game with the Niners against Kansas City, he didn't score. Those are the only 4 games since Christian McCaffrey got traded, along with yesterday, that he has not scored a touchdown. 17 straight comes to an end. That was also a win for us. Anthony, I'm going to stop keeping track. You're in charge of the math now. And not going up on the wrong side for me, especially on this one. Browns and Ravens, what a wild-ass game this was. Ravens jump out early, 17-3 after 1. Browns start putzing around. They make it 17-9 at halftime. Ravens come out, stretch the lead out again. Browns make a play. Ravens stretch it out again. And then here comes the Browns. They get the pick 6 with a ball that just gets batted up in the air. And then after missing a kick earlier in the day, our old pal Dustin Hopkins comes through at the end for Cleveland, 33-31. This is probably the best Watson has looked. But, of course, now he's hurt again because he's unreliable as could be. But, at the end of the day, like, they did it. And if he can play like that and, they're healthy elsewhere, then, yeah, the Browns can compete with anybody week to week. And they showed it because they beat the team that we were pretty sure through a half of football yesterday was the best team in football in the Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens collapsed.
Sure did.
I don't know what was going on. That second half, it looked like they started point shaving to an extent. The pick 6 definitely hurt, but I still think that they had plays out there and chance to go out there and win this game, man. Just came up short. And the thing about the Browns, like, they're a team, like, I think if you let, hang around, they'll be able to, just chip away, and make some plays. Like, their defense, again, they're led by their defense just like the Ravens. Ravens have a slightly better offense. But the Browns' defense definitely came to play yesterday.
No doubt. 4 o'clock window was incredible yesterday. Of course, I didn't get to watch any of it because I was busy watching the Commanders in Seattle. But Falcons-Cardinals was a heck of a game. Kyler Murray able to pull it out in the end. Just crazy, like, Kyler Murray stuff. I've always said Kyler Murray reminds me of Sonic the Hedgehog. And Sonic the Hedgehog in the old, like, Sega Genesis would just run. Is that too old for you?
Nah, I played.
You remember?
Yes.
So, like, his legs just started going in little circles.
Uh-huh.
That's what Kyler looks like when he runs to me. And he was back. ACL, like, what ACL? All is good there. Had good zip on the ball. Like, everything you saw, it looked like Kyler Murray. He throws for 249 in a Cardinals win. And, look, they compete. And, we saw it obviously week 1. But now that they have their guy back, like, I expect the Cardinals to be if you have the Cardinals on your schedule now, that sucks. Commanders got a huge gift getting them week 1. And that's great. They started 2-0, and obviously things have gone sideways since for Washington. But for the teams that, like, could have had, let's see, like, who do they have coming up? Like, if you're the Texans next week, could you have just gotten them 2 weeks ago? That would be sweet. No Kyler. The Rams, the Steelers, the Niners, the Bears, doesn't really matter much to them, but like the Eagles. The Eagles would much rather have a nice, easy, hey, we probably win the division today game on New Year's Eve. Nope, they're going to have to face Kyler Murray. Or the Seahawks trying to get into playoffs at the end of the year. Like, their last game is against Kyler Murray when it could otherwise have been against Clayton Tune.
Yeah.
Also, Taylor Heineke hurt in this game. The Atlanta Falcons, the fact that they were in this game is some small miracle because Taylor Heineke was 8 of 15 for 55 yards and a touchdown before leaving. And then Desmond Ridder was 4 of 6 for 39 yards in relief. That is a total of 70 yards passing, Anthony, by the time you subtract the sack yardage.
Yeah.
Even with the sack yardage not included, that is less than 100 yards.
Falcons offense, man, I don't understand it at all, actually. Bijan, he had himself a game, though.
Nice little 22 for 95 and a touchdown.
But
you
they
love to see
should
it.
have been doing this, though. You have Bijan, you
Of
have
course.
Tyler Algier, you also have Cordero, who was your guy last year. You have a plethora of running backs to be using at your disposal, and you're not using them. You want to, I don't know, keep trying to, pass the ball and things of that nature. So,
I mean, they ran it 41 times yesterday.
yeah.
They just aren't good.
Nah.
I don't know, man. Nah. Falcons, most frustrating team in football, perhaps. Lions and Chargers played a banger. Goff and what's his name? Herbert just absolutely dueling. Both guys over 300, 333, 2 touchdowns, no picks for Goff. Herbert, 323, 4 touchdowns, but had a pick in there. And then meanwhile, on the ground, how about this? Montgomery, 12 for 116. Gibbs, 14 for 77. Yeah. That is 9-7 and 5-5 a carry.
They had themselves a day yesterday. A day. But also, when we just look at the, the game itself, I think we all knew it was going to be a shootout. It was going to be a high-scoring affair. And it's going to come down to one possession. And we already know the Chargers don't win these kinds of games. So we both were on the Lions, and the Lions ended up going out there and kicking the field goal to win.
So Michael said this earlier. Phillips said this when he was on. The Giants game coming up for the Commanders is a must-win game because the Giants absolutely stink, and the Cowboys are very good at proving that. I think it's like 100 to 20, like literally combined score on the year. 49-17 was the final yesterday. Dak, 404, 4 touchdowns. Offensively, the Giants did play a little bit better late. I don't know exactly how soon the Cowboys pulled their starters, but I'm a little scared now that obviously it's still Wink Martindale's defense, which is a nightmare for this offense apparently. And if the Giants finally got a little bit comfortable on offense with Tommy DeVito, what does that look like next week against this just absolutely pitiful so far this year Commanders defense? But if you can't beat them, then it's you have the Giants and then you got to play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. So you're not going to fire Rivera with Thanksgiving coming up 4 days later. But if you go out and you lose to New York and then you lose on Thanksgiving on national TV, that could be curtains. And you're at a point in the year where I don't think that would be a bad decision. So just, somewhere in the back of your mind, hopefully that's not something we're dealing with. Coach firings are not fun. And we're not rooting for anyone to lose their job, but we also understand that we are all on a countdown to the inevitable at the end of the year, and there are a few things that could speed up that process, and losing to the New York Giants and then probably getting your doors blown off by the Cowboys on Thanksgiving with 10 days to prepare EB theoretically as the interim, absolutely the type of thing that could be the change or the thing that spurs change.
I think you said that perfectly, Greg. We have 2 divisional games, and I hate that both of those games are 5 days apart, but we got to handle some business, man. You got to figure out what you want to do.
The embarrassment potential is extraordinarily high in both. One, because the Giants stink, and if you lose to them, no matter in what form or fashion, yikes. And the Cowboys love beating up bad teams.
Yep.
And you're not a very good football team right now.
Nope.
I picked the Seahawks. You picked the Commanders. So tack on that.
Yep.
And then Raiders-Jets on Sunday night. Raiders able to pull it off with the Hail Mary falling just short at the end. Zach Wilson played a lot better, but not good enough. Meanwhile, Aiden O'Connell got a touchdown and a pick. And Devontae Adams looks like him again. 6 for 86, but he has 13 targets. They're just trying to get him the football, which I love to see. Josh Jacobs, 27 for 116. And DeAndre Carter, a nice little 15-yard carry in this game. Remember him?
Yep.
The guy they probably should have never gotten rid of. But, yeah, Raiders pull it out at home. The Jets. And the biggest news out of this is that Aaron Rodgers says he's going to come back in early to mid-December. So just in time for the Commanders on Christmas Eve.
That is so insane.
I still don't believe it, if I'm being honest.
Oh, you think it's a conspiracy theory?
And not a conspiracy theory. I just, he tore his Achilles. You don't come back in 3 months from a torn Achilles.
Yeah.
There's just no way the doctors are going to clear him. So, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe. I guess we'll find out. So that's the analysis. That's the picks. How do we do, Anthony?
Another great week for Craig. He went 8-4. I went 7-5. And we can thank the Commanders-Seahawks game for being the difference.
That is true. And then Monday night tonight, we are both on the Bills. Yes?
The Bills.
All right. So hopefully another 9-win week for your boy. Let's get Anthony up to 8. Let's go, Bills. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. All right, final hour of the show coming. It'll include Dave Johnson at 6:15. But next, our Pick 6 at 6. How'd we do? We will find out next. We are about 10 minutes from Dave Johnson here on a Wizards game day on the Team 980. We are just over an hour from pregame coverage with Dave and Glenn from Toronto. Of course, the hometown of Megan McPeak. That is the most important thing, Anthony, when the Wizards go to Toronto, is that is a Megan McPeak home game.
Have you been to Toronto?
I have not. I really want to go.
I haven't been either.
I've heard it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, which is a shame because, like, when we were in school at Cuse, like, it actually wasn't that far.
Nope.
Really screwed the pooch. What if we did a show trip to Toronto?
I would definitely. Well, I don't know how we would do that, but
Yeah. I don't know. My next potential trip that I am thinking about for work is doing Super Bowl this year. It's in Vegas, and I think AC is going to be out there, so that would save on.
I wish I could go.
Like if we could go and just stay with our friend, avoid the hotel chaos, do Radio Row. I could probably actually stay for the game potentially too, because most time media goes out there for the week and then comes home on Saturday.
Yep.
What if I actually stayed for the game? That'd be cool.
You have a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I need to look at flights. Although I gotta wait. Actually, you know what, Ant? I know it's called the Pick 6 at 6. Are we really gonna fly through this in like 5 minutes?
No.
Or should we wait and do it at 6:30?
I think we should do it at 6:30.
Okay, we're gonna flesh out my thought here. So, as you know, we just moved, right? Yep. I have so many credit card points coming.
The fact that you said credit card point, those points.
But like my points / miles, right?
Yes.
Like I have an American Airlines credit card.
Yep.
Am I actually loyal to American Airlines? I will be if they want to sponsor the show. But out of DC, as an unsponsored radio show here, they objectively have the best flight patterns. It's easier to get a nonstop on American out of DCA, out of Reagan, out of National Airport, than it is any other airline. United's got pretty solid, like, and not just out of National though, but like flying out of National on American, you can get more places than any other airline in DC, out of BWI, out of Dulles. Like United's got a lot of flights out of Dulles. Not as many as different locations as American has out of DCA. Delta's flight pattern is you go through Detroit, Atlanta, or LaGuardia, no matter where you're flying, pretty much. The Southwest has a decent number, but not as many as American. So over the years of like flying for the beat, and also like my family growing up, we were old, what's it called? U.S. Airways. Before the merger way back in the day. So, like, I've been accumulating miles there for a long time. But now with Rachel and I, going places together, like, I'll buy the flights on my credit card, so I've been accumulating miles. Point being, I think with how much we bought for the move, like new couch, tables, all this kind of stuff, big purchases, I think I'm going to be platinum status by the time. If I wait a couple days and let those miles hit, I think I'm going to have platinum status. So that'd be fun to book the flight once I have the platinum status.
Yeah, that's going to be lit.
Which very also close. Hopefully maybe we can get upgraded, which would be nice. I think there's a better chance than obviously if we're just gold status.
Yeah, definitely.
And who knows where we'll be by the time Super Bowl week rolls around. That's still months away. Maybe I can get to executive platinum. Probably not. That's a lot of miles.
I was about to say, because then you really running it up at that point.
We're gonna need to buy like 5 more couches, and we do not need to buy 5. Yo, couches are expensive, bro.
Tell me about it. Which kind of couch are you? Are you getting like one of those like L-shaped couches, or are you?
Yeah, we got a nice deep couch with a chaise.
Oh yeah.
We wanted one that you kind of like spread out on.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's a couch, but it's big enough that if you want to sit like 2 people wide, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got that. We got an ottoman situation.
Okay.
So yeah,
we're coming like, together. It sounds like it's coming together really nice.
I definitely just smashed the hell out of my knee on the. If you heard a thud, that was my knee on the console here. But like the thing is, we're at the point where like I'm an adult now. It's terrible. I hate it. But like, it's time to buy a nice couch that hopefully will be our couch for the next, like, hopefully, we love our new place that we just moved into. Otherwise, that would be terrible. But like, eventually, when we move into a bigger home one day, like, we're going to bring this couch with us. And hopefully, it's there for our kids to play on and like all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, I guess we have to spend money on a nice one. But at least it comes with airline miles.
Hey, you can't go wrong with that, man.
And so hopefully, you also, I do think, we talked about this when we went to Vegas this summer. You got to be careful what airline you fly going to Vegas, because a lot of people that don't fly very often like to fly to Vegas.
What did you fly? American.
We made the mistake. We flew.
United.
No.
Don't tell me Spirit.
No. Come on. Unless, of course, you want to sponsor the show, Spirit.
Delta.
No. We flew the fun airline.
JetBlue.
No. We flew Southwest.
Ah.
Which is not my favorite flying experience. I know a lot of people like it. That's fine. But we had a bad time with some pricing issues, with all kinds of stuff.
Connecting flight?
No, that's the one thing we won't do. Rachel hates flying. So, and it's the takeoff and the landing. Yeah. So she refused, because like I was ready to switch to another airline that had an inferior flight pattern because I'd had some issues with old American Airlines. Yeah. And anybody who's followed me on Twitter for a long time probably knows that. But she's like, no, we're flying nonstop anytime we fly. And I was like, okay then. All right. Well, that takes out one of the airlines that makes me connect somewhere else all the time. So yeah, that's that. All right. Take a break. Come back. Dave Johnson will join us. We'll talk a little Wizards. And then we will get to our pick six at 6:30, which I think we had, Anthony, a very, very good list of players that were involved in major ways in the Commanders' loss to Seattle. So we will kind of look at the game through the lens of those 6 players coming up at 6:30. But next, Wizards this weekend. Yeah. Dave Johnson talks about it and previews tonight's game against the Raptors next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Final 45 minutes on a Misery Monday. And it's a Misery Monday because that's what we call Mondays after the Commanders lose. But it was a pretty miserable weekend for the Wizards as well. Can they bounce back tonight against the Raptors? Let's talk about it all with our guy, Dave Johnson.
Time to get the radio party started.
Blocked by Bilal Coulibaly. Oh boy, did he stuff him. Left wing pool, it's there. Oh, that's a pool party. Near the basket, slam right there. Oh, near the steal and the slam. You better go off. Intercepted by Kispert. Kispert now foul line. Oh, slam. Ooh, that'll jar your preserves.
It's time for Dave Johnson on a Wizards game day.
Kuzma for three. Oh, it's there. It's there. Big shot.
On the Hoffman Show.
All right, we find Dave north of the border in Toronto. At least that's where he should be because the Wizards play there. And, pregame starts in an hour. Dave, how we doing?
Yeah, oh, yes. Yes, that is a fact. I didn't know if that was a question or yes.
I was going to lay out because I figured you would have some funny, witty comment. And I was like, oh, nope. I did a bad job of setting that up. And now we're just going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. Bad execution, draw it up, go back.
No, I was actually texting my therapist because I was in a pretty good mood until I realized it was Misery Monday. But, but this is also the beauty of basketball is that, unlike, football where you have a whole week now to be miserable because of what happened yesterday, there's another chance to get back at it tonight. And also, as we said, this team is not going to be about, wins and losses. And again, that's not code for you're going to lose the next 70 games. That's not the way you get better and approach things. But, yesterday was just a feel-good moment for Bilal Coulibaly. Mm-hmm. I think, you asked a question last week and somebody's asked questions. They'll say, sometimes we'll look at numbers, et cetera. And I've just been answering, he's played very well and very consistent from the start of the season. Whatever the game calls for at the time he's in, he seems to provide. And yesterday, he got 20 points, but it was not like you were thinking, wow, he's on fire. He just got 20 points because he took what the game dictated, and the 7 rebounds and the 4 steals. And some of those assists, I think about a drive to the basket where 2 defenders come on him, and he's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid to get an N1, which he got a couple of yesterday, but he sees the defense coming. He makes the pass to Gafford, who cuts baseline and has an easy slam dunk or layup. I forget which. But the point being,
he said
he does not play like a 19-year-old. There's no deer in headlights. Even though the NBA game, make no mistake, is a faster pace in terms of it. When I'm saying faster pace, I'm not talking about running gun. I'm just talking about the decision making that has to go on, even in a half-court situation, is no doubt quicker than he's ever experienced in his life, and he is accepting it and embracing it.
No doubt about it. And I think there's an interesting thing to kind of look at with him, which is to say, if you're trying to tweak lineups, and this was much more about wins and losses, I think I'd be asking you about just why aren't they starting him yet? It seems like he's been one of their best players. It seems like he's the kind of piece that they need.
And I think, but to answer that question, we're barely 10 games in. I guess we get to 10 games tonight. I have to
right. Yeah, no, they played 9. So last time I checked, 10 is still next.
Right, I know. So but there is with all this, the accolades we just talked about, and he's 9 games into his NBA career, and it's not that he couldn't accept more, but I think they want to get this right, and I believe they got it right with picking Bilal first of all, and then developing him, and that's the part they want to get right, and that's the key. As we talk about with how teams rebuild and are successful in the NBA, you want that high draft pick. Well, okay, but then that's not the easy part. You've got to still get it right with that high draft pick. Again, I don't mean this as a slight, but the Wizards, it was not a good year when, Kwame Brown turned out to be the top pick. And then, in fairness, also to Kwame or whoever, you've got to develop that player because he might be a player that's 18 or 19. He might be a player that's a little less known quantity because, more and more those top 2 or 3 picks or 4 picks or whatever are not guys that played 4 years in college.
No doubt about it. Dave Johnson and tonight's anthem singer joining us from Toronto. Of course, Dave and Glenn will be on the broadcast coming up just under an hour from right now for pregame. Tip an hour and 8 minutes away. So, yeah, exactly where I was going, which is like, I don't know if that's actually the best thing for his development. But it does seem, Dave, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but they do need to do something in this starting lineup. Unfortunately, their stars just seem to not figure out or have not been able to figure out how to play together. Of lineups, 2-man combinations that have played over 100 minutes this season in the NBA, the 3 worst in terms of plus minus are Kuzma, Poole, Tyus Jones, Kyle Kuzma. So what has Wes said about trying to whether it's stagger their minutes or fix whatever it is that is not working between those 3 players in order to get better results? Because while it's not about wins and losses this year, winning is more fun than losing, and they do obviously are trying to win every game as they go out there and play it, even if they're okay long term with whatever the results may be.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, they're not okay with losing, you know that. But again, you can break down stats in so many different ways. But the one that is glaring is both games. They beat the Hornets last week. Should have beat them. Should have.
That's the style they
on
play.
Friday, and could have very well beat the Nets team. That look, they didn't have their full strength. Cam Thomas were out. So and they lead in the fourth quarter, and they should have done it. But the stat that is more concerning that needs to be fixed, and it's not. It's a team. It's a team thing. I'm talking about rebounding. Over the 2-game stretch of the Hornets on Friday, the Nets Sunday yesterday, they allowed 48 offensive rebounds. It led to 53 second chance points. So scoring is not a problem for this Wizards team. But defense is a problem if you're not getting those offensive rebounds and you're allowing second chance points. That's where, again, plus minus is an interesting stat in basketball, and sometimes it's right on, sometimes it's not. And you've seen guys play a good game and have a minus 10 or whatever. But the bottom line is to be certainly competitive tonight against this Raptors team, they're going to have to be physical. They're going to have to, and part of that is rebounding. And they'll not win games giving teams second chance points. They'll be competitive like they were against the Hornets, like they were against the Nets, but they're not going to win games. So that, and we knew this was going to be a challenge, rebounding. So that's not a headline flash, but it's something they have to get better as a team, and that means it's details. It's hitting somebody. It's positioning. It's boxing out. Somebody just walked by to me moments ago and said, "Do you think you can get a rebound tonight?" So the focus right now is to cure a lot of what's ailing the Wizards is on the glass and not allowing teams second chance points. And by the way, getting some second chance points of their own.
Yeah, and getting you on the glass, Dave. Has it been your fault all along?
It might be. It might be.
Oh, okay.
But rebounding is. It is simple, but it's not that simple. Kyle Kuzma was asked about it. It's want, and it's just go get the ball, and et cetera. But, it's like yesterday. Part of the plan against the Nets are a high-volume, three-point shooting team that can, run up a lot of points. Look at the numbers. But the Wizards held them well beyond the arc yesterday. That's the good news. The bad news is, there were a lot of long misses from those missed threes that they didn't get the rebounds up. So you get half of it right, but you got to get the full picture right. And this is why the Wizards are 2-7 because and it shows you the fine margin between 2-7 and 4-5. I mean, 4-5 is basically a 500 team after 9 games. So while I say you can't get angst-ridden about the loss, and it's still this team needs to get wins and needs to complete the puzzle to get victories because it can be a team It
What
should
is
be
it that
4 and
made
5 instead of 2
everything
and 7.
look so
No doubt
effortless
about
for
it.
you tonight, Tyree?
Margins
Man,
are
this had nothing to do
small,
with me. This
but
all
that's
Kelly
the
Oubre,
league.
man.
Those
we
are the
praying
leagues
for him,
at this
man.
level. We talk
Love
about
my
the
dog, man. I
Commanders
just
in the
met him, but I
NFL
love him.
all the
You know what
time.
I'm saying?
Dave
I hope
Johnson,
he
Glenn
gets well
Contour
soon.
on the call tonight in Toronto. You can catch the pregame show coming up at 7:15. Tip-off just after 7:30. That's Canadian time, which luckily for us, Dave, is the same as our time.
Yes, it is the same. And you know what? Up here, that we're still in a pretty English-speaking part of Toronto. But as I talk with Russ Unseld Jr., or English-speaking part of Canada, but as you know, they speak French up here.
Yes,
as well, and it's considered the second language. I want to share with folks that as I talked to Russ Unseld Jr. after we just had a pregame chat, and obviously we were talking about Bilal Coulibaly, and I said to Wes Jr., I thought maybe he knows how to speak French, and he says no, he doesn't. But, and I witnessed this firsthand, his father, and if you can think about 6'8", Wes Unseld, the father, a mountain of a man.
Yes.
I can still picture him speaking fluent French at a training camp in Wilmington, North Carolina, when the subject of French speaking came up, and Wes Jr. shared a story tonight about his dad once was in a play, and he played a role, the whole role in French. So a little trivia question. Somebody can win a bar bet at true or false. Could Wes Unseld Sr. speak French? And I bet you a lot of people would say false, but the answer is true.
The answer is oui. Is that story in the pregame interview, or is that just you guys chatting?
No, it'll probably be woven throughout the course of the
broadcast.
You know,
okay.
Yes, I didn't want to embarrass him on the mic, but I have to ask him afterwards, and that's what he said. No, but he and I said, well, you know, your dad, like, of course, he didn't need me to tell him his dad spoke French. He probably knew that, but
yes,
you know, I said it because I actually was in his dad's company when he was speaking fluent French, so I can attest to it.
That's great. Well, au revoir, Dave. Thank you. Have a great call.
Okay. 7:15, I heard on the Hoffman shows when we start.
There you go. Indeed. All right. That's Dave Johnson, everybody, with us from Toronto. Here on the Hoffman Show, our pick 6 at 6:30 is next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Typically at 6 o'clock, we do our pick 6 on a Monday, but we did a bad job. We pull. Should I take the cheap shot, Anthony?
Sure.
I pulled a Ron Rivera, and we did bad clock management. Yikes. I'm sorry. That's beneath me. But it's also not.
Fair. Yeah.
It's also not. We did a bad job managing the clock, so instead of rushing it at 6 o'clock, right now it is time for our pick 6.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is time!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the pick 6 at 6.
I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their number one fan.
All right, let's get into it. Helps if I have the fader up. What the hell? Oh, over there. That's a 5.
Number 1.
You know what, Anthony? I'm assessing myself a 5-yard penalty on that one. That was terrible execution by me. Even if it's just bad execution, I feel deeply regretful for how that just played out. Number 1 was Percy Butler. Anthony, this was your pick. I'm curious what you think about this because PFF graded Percy Butler the number 1 best player on the Commanders defense yesterday, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of hate that grade.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like it either, considering he was the last person that had a shot at Kenneth Walker.
Perfectly squared up in the hole.
That's what I'm
like,
saying.
not even a hard tackle.
Not at all. And this is back-to-back weeks where we're seeing Percy Butler be the last line of defense, having to come down, tackle a guy in space, and he just, ends up coming up short. Yes, he did have a couple of PBUs on the day. I remember he had one on a deep crosser by DK Metcalf. But again, the explosive plays are what's killing us. And again, we gave up an explosive play on the heels of Percy Butler.
So, this is where PFF gets itself in trouble. I'm not even going to pull that, say I actually don't like the grade, because I'm just going to put the grade in context. They grade each play individually, right? So, Percy Butler played all 80 snaps. And they give him a grade on every play, and they do the math, and then they do the average, and it's hey, if you did your job, you get 100. If you didn't, you do whatever. If you made no impact, you get an X amount of grade. However it is their grading system, they divide by the number of plays, and that's your grade, that's what you played. So this is a situation where a PFF grade is a very bad indicator of how someone actually played. He made the mistake. Or one of the key mistakes, right? It's not 100% on Percy Butler by any stretch of the imagination. But on that play, that's your job. You're the last guy. And he, again, is not able to do that. And as a safety in the NFL, you can't do that once a game. And it's 2 weeks in a row. So, he was better. His speed shows up. He flies to the ball sometimes. But you just can't do that. And so you talk about, hey, we picked you because you're the guy that's supposed to prevent the big plays. Well, we prevented all the coverage busts, and that was great. We had a big old missed tackle, and that was not.
Number 2.
So I picked Emmanuel Forbes, and boy, did he have an impact on this game. Whoopsie daisies. I said it in 1st and 10. That ejection is a joke. And I think he actually mattered a ton, too, because I was texting with Logan a little bit earlier. I think BSJ was going to play the nickel most of the day.
Yep.
Forbes is back to being a starter outside and was going to play a ton of snaps against the 11 personnel. I had some YouTube comment. I was trying to find it to go back at this person. But they were they got caught in base too much with, so-and-so chasing, receivers. Khaleke Hudson played 8 snaps yesterday. They were a nickel the whole freaking day. And unfortunately, Danny Johnson, who also on the Kenneth Walker play takes a bad angle, and is not good. He, Danny I think he was okay, but he had a couple plays made on him yesterday, or was not in great position to help tackle at times. And so if Forbes is in there, those things theoretically don't happen. Also, is he matched up with DK at the end of the game, and is he able to do what he did against New England and get his hands on balls? And does he play that stuff better than BSJ does? And I think when you look at a much bigger picture, BSJ was not supposed to be your number 1 corner. Emmanuel Forbes was. And his lack of availability and his lack of development have led them to do other things. And this one, when we say his lack of ability, this isn't his fault. It's a bad play. It's absolutely a penalty. You got to get your head out of there. but it wasn't intentional. It was a joke that he got ejected, and it had a huge impact in the game. And who knows what would have happened? Maybe he would have had plays made on him. Maybe there would have been more miscommunication. But at the end of the day, like, it definitely had a big impact and put BSJ, a guy who prepares a lot during the week, into a position that he wasn't prepared for. And you see some of the results, and they weren't ideal.
Number 3.
Logan Thomas was your number 2, our number 3.
Yeah, Logan Thomas was my number 3. My number 2. Primarily because I knew the challenges that the Seahawks defense was gonna, have on our receiving corps yesterday. Terry, he had an okay outing. Jahan, 0 catches on endless targets. Man. Curtis really couldn't get up. Like, they were stuck to those guys like white on rice, Craig. It was crazy. So I thought, Logan Thomas, this was going to be a good opportunity for him to go out there. And he had 5 catches for 40 yards, but I think B-Rob and Antonio Gibson, those are the guys that stole the show because they had some explosive plays down the field, and they were more effective in the passing game. But I think Logan Thomas, they need to get him a little bit more involved. You talked about getting screens to John Bates. Why not to Logan Thomas? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they've tried that too. They love a tight end screen, and I do not love a tight end screen unless it's to Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
So, I kind of hate that. I think Logan was good yesterday. Like, he made himself available. He's 5 catches on 5 targets. Like, that's what you want. That I can remember, no major pass protection issues. I haven't looked at the run game stuff with any sincerity. So, Logan Thomas, they did exactly what you want. Exactly what you want in a win. Unfortunately, wasn't enough.
Number 4.
Different story for Terry McLaurin. He got targeted 8 times, and it sure didn't feel like it because he only had 4 catches for 33 yards. His long is 13. Now, I do think, based off of watching a few things back, there might have been a few plays where he's open down the field and Sam doesn't look for one reason or another. Sometimes it's where the progression takes you and it's bad luck. Sometimes it's like, yo! But Terry wasn't super involved yesterday, and you'd love to see him get more involved. And they gave him some opportunities, and Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon. God, that kid is freaking ridiculously
nasty.
Good. They did a good job on him, and I think the Commanders receivers come out of this game playing some pretty bad ball. And Jahan is the bigger story because, like, you had your best 2 games of the season the last 2 weeks, and then you go out and you do that. And that's again a reflection of their talent evaluation. Like, Jahan was a first-round pick, man, and you can't have first-round picks in their second year like complete no-showing. 2 targets, you can't even get open to get more than 2 targets. I like Jahan a lot. I love him as a dude, but he's not there as a football player. He's young, he's still developing, but not ideal right there at this time. All right, last 2 guys in our pick 6.
Number 5.
Brian Robinson. Good pick, Anthony. I just Lee Corso'd you. Good pick. Where's my number 2 pencil?
But part of the reason I chose Brian Robinson is because I thought we were going to be able to establish the run a little bit more.
Whoopsies.
And I think he just ended up impacting the game in a totally different way. His ability to, help Sam out, in these off schedule plays by Sam really showed up. And then also just his ability to, catch the ball in open space, get open.
He had a nice angle route, choice route at one point.
So I think B-Rob, he went out there and showed, a different side to his game. And I think that's huge because, again, you can use him and Gibson in just so many different ways. But, yeah, huge day for B-Rob. But also on the last drive when we scored, we went to the run game first, and he had some good runs on that drive.
They had 4 straight runs.
Exactly.
And then it was like EB was like, okay, that's enough.
So we know we can run the ball, just more so, having
frustrating.
8 attempts on the day, that's not going to get it done.
That's so frustrating. There was actually another play where Sam tried, I think it's one where he almost got picked. He had Robinson in the flat again, and he might have scored again. If he could have seen him out of the corner of his eye and just, threw one sidearm over to him, he, escaped up in the pocket, and he tried to, just zip one down the middle, and I think it went like off a receiver's hands, off a DB's hands, that one.
Oh, that one, yeah.
If you look at the wide angle of that, and they showed it on the broadcast, like Brian Robinson is having a party for one in the flat. And if Sam just recognizes it and can like get the ball to him remotely in the air where he can catch it. I mean, if he gets it to him like in timing, he runs down the sideline and scores.
Yeah.
If he just gets it to him, period, it's a big play. But yeah, he was great out of the backfield. My last guys
Number 6
were John Allen and Daron Payne. Not impactful. A couple of nice plays, but like not getting your money's worth out of those guys right now. And that's a big reason why the defense is what it is. And we'll have much more on that tomorrow after we've had a chance to watch the tape. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, we wrap up the show with real things real people said into real microphones. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Tomorrow on the show, ESPN's Seth Walder joins us at 5 o'clock. He is one of their lead analytics folks, so very excited to talk to Seth about like what is real about analytics in the NFL and what are some of the common misconceptions and what can Eugene Shen bring to the Commanders organization in terms of on-field decision-making, player development, player selection, all those types of things. Seth will have insight onto that tomorrow. It's also our usual Tuesday staples, so we'll talk about the film. We'll have a Vibe Check Tuesday. What else do we do on Tuesdays, Anthony? I can't think straight.
Overreaction.
Oh, that's right. Linnell will join us for Overreaction Tuesday. So we got plenty of stuff. Probably a little Wizards reaction as well from tonight in Toronto. Real quick, Ant. Well, we also will have to talk about our weekends because you played a little football this weekend.
I had a very long weekend, to say the least. But yes, I did play football this weekend. My flag football team. I've been playing flag football since 2019.
Okay.
And it is 2020. It is fall 2023. And Craig, I played in a lot of leagues. I played in a lot of tournaments, and I finally got my first championship ring.
Hey!
Finally, long time coming.
You get an actual ring?
Yes.
You get a.
I'll bring the ring in tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a real nice ring. Like it's real big. It's blingy. It's flashy.
Are you gonna ever wear it?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on.
What would happen?
I don't think I'll wear it out. I don't think I'll wear it out.
Would you wear it around here?
No.
Okay,
No.
good.
I'm just gonna
Because
bring it into.
if you wore a flag football championship ring, Doc Walker would come, take that thing off your finger, and go flush it down the toilet. And that's only if he beat you, if he beat B. Mitch to doing that to you.
Now that you're saying that, I might actually, do it one day. Actually, I think I'm just gonna bring it to the station when he's here.
It would be a pretty funny
and
bit.
then put it on and see how he reacts.
You need to have somebody film it.
Yeah, because I know he's gonna react. He's gonna have something.
I want Doc's reaction and I want B. Mitch's reaction. Two guys that have actual Super Bowl rings.
All right, that's a bet. That's a bet.
I'm trying
And
to
B.
think
Mitch
who would
always
be-
wears his, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who would be a funny, like a good videographer for that. For B. Mitch, you just get Mullins to do it.
Yeah, Mullins.
You can get that.
Eminem might be here.
Yeah, Eminem would be a good one.
Yeah.
If I was hanging around, it'd be too obvious.
Yeah.
Got to be conspicuous.
Unless we were in the bullpen.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. Now we have a good quality bit coming, which excites me tremendously. All right, let's wrap it up. It's time for Real Things Real People Said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to suck this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
Alrighty, I saw this happening on Fox's pregame show yesterday, and I picked it up near the end. So it's Veterans Day over the weekend, and as such, Fox does their pregame show from the Air Force Academy in Colorado, and they send the 6'7" Rob Gronkowski skydiving, and I just saw the end where they like land, and there's just two dudes laying there, and I was like, what is happening here? I didn't realize one of the dudes was Gronk. And then because he ended it by eventually getting unclipped, standing up and spiking it, I'm like, oh, I know that spike. That was Rob Gronkowski.
Gronk is in, and Gronk has landed. Wow. Thumbs up, so he's safe and sound, folks.
That's awesome, though. You know what? That's what I love. Gronk is game to do anything. And he always said this is something he always wanted to do. And they always told him he was too big and he was too heavy. But if you're going to do it, you do it with the best. So I'm glad he got a chance to do it here at the Air Force Academy. So great job, Gronk.
I couldn't get my feet up all the way. Oh, good. We did it.
He's talking to Miguel.
From the landing. All right. This is probably the raddest touchdown you ever done. Laboratory spike, dude. Welcome to the sky. Touchdown. Gronk spike.
There we go. You should have done that from 11,000 feet. That would be the ultimate Gronk spike.
Kurt, if you ever hear this, do not give him any ideas. Because that would be Gronk next. I got to go again so I can Gronk spike. And some woman in Denver is going to die because she got hit in the head by a football that Gronk threw out of an airplane.
Have you ever gone skydiving?
No.
Will you ever check that off?
It's
Is it
not
even on your bucket list?
No, it's not. It's not. I understand it. I understand the thrill, of it theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to land in the, no pun intended on the landing, but I tend to fall, that kind of works. I tend to believe there's no good reason to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. That school of thinking, that line lands, no pun intended, with me better than fun, thrill-seeking, whatever. Like, I know people that have done it, and they're like, this is awesome. I'm out on that. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever do it. Actually, my girlfriend actually wanted to surprise me one time, and she asked me if I wanted to do skydiving, like the indoor skydiving.
That I would do.
And I told her I didn't want to even do that.
Oh, that looks awesome.
Really?
Yeah, because you get the feeling of like falling through the air without the risk of, because like the indoor skydiving, it's like air that comes up and keeps you propelled.
Yeah.
So you're like, and you're floating essentially. But if something happens and the air falls out, you fall into like a bouncy ball surface or a bouncy house surface.
Yeah.
By the way, I totally missed the out time.
I know, because you were looking that way.
Oh, I was trying to get the sound ready. How long do we have in the show?
55:48.
55:48. Okay, so we have 20 seconds left.
Yes.
If I fall on a bouncy house, I'm fine. If something goes wrong with the parachute and we fall from 10,000 feet, we're dead.
Yep. Unless you land in the water.
I still think you'd probably die.
You might.
So, not in it for me. That's our radio show. We'll see you again tomorrow.